Welcome along to our big match preview. I'm backed by Ladbrokes for the season. And after a week that is hard to forget, we must look forward to Thursday night's game, this time at the King Power Stadium, as Saints travel up to play Leicester City. This week, I'm with John from the Saints FC podcast, returning as a last-minute substitute as we take a look ahead to the trip to the Midlands. But it was a very difficult week though, wasn't it, mate? A very difficult weekend to take after heartbreaking 2-0 up, completely comfortable, cruising at this point. We completely capitulated, crumbled, as I said, crumbled like a cookie in a baker's oven at the weekend. Chelsea smashing 3 goals in under 10 minutes. A lot of us were upset last week, but it's even worse now. How are you feeling at this moment after, we're staring down a barrel at something that was totally unthinkable 2 years ago?
It was emotionally exasperating. I was at the game at Highbury and I thought we played really, really well. And it was gutting to lose. I felt like when we got to 2-2, I thought we were going to push on, probably get the winner at that point. And then we all know what happened. But at the weekend, I think, when Tadic scored, it was just like, oh my God, we might actually be able to do this. Got through to half time, still hadn't conceded. Bednarek got a goal, pretty much on the hour mark. And you're thinking, this is actually going to be it. We're actually going to get 3 points. We're going to start taking matters into our own hands. And Chelsea have been hopeless recently. They've stopped caring completely. But just after Bednarek scored, I think it maybe even been before the kickoff, he brought on Giroud. And I've been to St Mary's too many times to not know what Giroud does to us. And that kind of little alarm bell went off in the back of my head. I thought, well, he's likely to get one. But those 8 minutes were just, they're just awful. And I think it typified everything that's wrong with Saints this season, really, in terms of how quickly we just lose all hope and confidence as soon as we concede. Regardless of whether we had a 2-goal lead or a 1-goal lead, or whether it's quite early on in the match, just conceding just seems to knock the absolute stuffing out of us. I cannot understand it at all. So it was heartbreaking. Yeah, I remember I was shaking when we got to 2-2. I was just thought, oh no, this is it. It's physically affecting me now, Southampton's performances.
It is, and it was very emotional sitting in that stands. A few people around me, when we were 2-0 up, people said to me, we deserve to go down if we lose this match. And actually, before we go on to say anything about Chelsea, you mentioned Highbury. It was the Emirates. Oh, yeah.
Same difference. Man, that is going back some time, isn't it?
It is, yeah. 13 years to be, in fact. But Olivier Giroud, he's played at Arsenal, he's played at Chelsea now, and actually he scored more goals at St Mary's than some of our strikers this season.
That is just depressing, isn't it? But Giroud is the typical striker that we can't defend against this season. So many goals we've conceded with a decent cross thrown in towards the back post. Cedric Suarez always seems to be the guy marking the tall, athletic striker. And, Giroud just has all that tall athleticism, great at headering, great at reading, the direction of a cross coming in. He's got all of that. And that is if there's one thing that we really, really can't defend against, it's that. Just depressing to see how simple it is for other teams to do that. And then what follows his first goal, which is, typical Giroud goal, is just an inexplicable collapse. That's where, if you had Jose Font on the pitch, he'd have gone round to the players in the immediate vicinity. He would have rallied, okay, fine, we've conceded 1 goal, let's really focus, let's really stick to our task, let's really make sure that this doesn't happen again. And that doesn't mean that it wouldn't necessarily happen, but I don't think it would have happened so many times that we've seen this season. There's so many times where we've just really lacked a leader on the pitch. And it seems crazy, he's plying his trade out in China. 18 months ago, he was our captain of our club.
We are completely short of confidence, and with no leaders on the pitch, I honestly can't see a way out of this. But the games are going against us, and it now leaves us 5 points from safety after West Brom beat Man United. We're now closer to the bottom than we are to survival.
Well, I mean, we finished bottom last time we got relegated from the Premier League, and it wouldn't entirely surprise me if that happens. I mean, if you end up listening to this week's podcast, I go through the fixtures of every team that's still in the relegation dogfight, and I think our one glimmer of hope, but it's our one chance, is Brighton's running is appalling. They have the top 4 and Burnley of their remaining 5 games. And so it's conceivable that they may not get another point this season.
It might be conceivable that Brighton might fuck it all up. But Mark Hughes has been in the press this week, admitted that he now knows some of the players that will and won't fight for his survival. I mean, here's a question for you viewers at home as well. Go ahead and leave it in the comments. Which players do you think could be responsible, and who is he referring to in the fact that he says he knows which players will and won't fight for us? I mean, John, who do you think now's a chance to name drop a few players? Who do you think he's talking about?
I mean, the number one player who I think sticks out for me as someone who, yes, talented, yes, loads and loads of skill, but is just not the kind of person that you need in a relegation dogfight is Buffal. I think he must be referring to Buffal there. I don't know. Maybe he thinks Stevens because he's ruled himself out for 3 games with his red card by doing what we've all wanted to do to Jack Wilshere.
I've got a man on my list here, actually. A chap that I saw on a way out from St Mary's on Saturday afternoon. Guido Carrillo, not even been in the squad the last 2-3 weeks. We paid £19 million for him. What's his worth now? He's not even getting in the squad. Didn't even travel with the team on Saturday yet. He's leaving on his own. He's a face full of thunder in his own car on the way out from St Mary's.
I mean, I imagine he's fuming. The Southampton board are culpable for that. Everyone else at the club who's watching the games, I don't think expected Pellegrino to last the distance of the season. In the January transfer window then thereabouts, I think all of us were expecting that Pellegrino would be the biggest change, and then inexplicably they give him 20 million quid to spend on his own man. Yeah, I mean, Carrillo, he's clearly not going to be involved. I mean, I don't even really think of him as a squad player. He didn't even register in my consciousness when you asked me that question. But yeah, I'm sure he's one of the ones that Mark Hughes is thinking about. Yeah,
I think there's actually probably a dozen or so players you can probably name off straight off the bat that if we go down to the Championship, you can name a squad's worth that will leave us and would depart. It will be a fire sale, but I mean, slight positives, though, to Saturday's performance. There was no lack of effort and there was a real desire to fight our way out of this on Saturday.
Yeah, and I want to pick something up as well. Tadic gets a lot of stick for the amount of effort that he puts in, and at times he does look fairly abject on the pitch, but he actually does seem to be a player that seems to be trying in this run-in. Yeah, he's got a funny way of trying, Tadic, but, I think when he scored the goal, you could see it meant an awful lot to him, and he was grabbing the badge and stuff like that. And I think for a player like Tadic, he probably realises he's not really going to end up in much bigger club than Southampton. And so actually Southampton staying in the Premier League and him still being able to be the assist king, pick up a few goals, be in a good enough position that he's getting into the Serbia side, all the time and being able to do his thing for that, which he obviously really loves and enjoys doing. I think he'll be disappointed if Saints go down because I think he's one of the ones that would be off. But I think he'd be off to another middling Premier League team. He's not going to be off to like one of the top 6, I don't think.
Yeah, well, it was interesting that he came out to the press a few weeks ago. We've touched upon it a few times already, but he was one of the players that said, I'm having sleepless nights because of where we are. This is the worst part of my career.
Yeah, I mean, Tadic saying he has sleepless nights. I think all of us have had a few moments where we've woken up in the middle of the night and just gone, am I allowed to swear on this?
Go for it.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. What sort of situation are we in? I think like everyone kind of like, you sometimes have those anxiety dreams. You wake up and it's just like Southampton are just getting like right into my subconsciousness. And I was in an awful state on Saturday. I'm like trying to hang out with my wife and child and be like a reasonable husband and father. And it's just in the back of my mind, I'm just like, what is happening? I just can't, it seems so inexplicable. And you're right, you mentioned right at the start of our chat, 2 years ago, this would have been unimaginable. 2 years ago, we were 6th in the division. Crazy.
Complete collapse and a bit like Saturday's performance. But, and I think if we give it the fight this Thursday, I think we're as good as gone. Obviously, Leicester, I think for me, they're pretty much coasting now until the rest of the season. And you know what? Every single Leicester fan you speak to on the social media, You know, they mock us. They say, why did you sack Claude Puel? Cup final, 8th in the league. I mean, has he got a point to prove, Claude Puel, on Thursday night?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I think Claude Puel proved his point in absolute buckets when Leicester came to St Mary's. And hopefully that's it. Hopefully he feels vindicated. He's made his point. Southampton are in the relegation zone after sacking him. And hopefully, you know, we can do... I mean, we owe him and Leicester a good kicking after that game, because it was just so embarrassing. I think, you know, Claude Puel's going to be up for the game. I don't necessarily know if the Leicester players are going to be up for it. They've got nothing really left to play for this season. You know, you have players like Mahrez and Vardy can obviously hurt you regardless of, you know, whether they're necessarily trying or not. But I think, you know, it's a key match and it is winnable. I think we've got to go there hoping and almost expecting us to win. There's not been that many times when I've gone into a game, especially a away game this season, but it's that important. If we don't win it, you know, then we're in deep shit, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. High pressure game. Huge expectations from the fans, the travelling fans as well. And as I just said, I think if we don't get anything, we're as good as gone.
I agree with you, Freddie. I just can't think this is the game that we need to start the momentum of the Great Escape 2018 if it's going to happen. It may not happen, but if it is going to happen, I think Thursday night's going to be the start of it. Certainly, I think if we perform like we did against Arsenal, if we perform like we did against Chelsea, in the most part, Hughes kind of like works on maybe some defensive drilling today and tomorrow, you know, getting the players ready and thinking about how, I mean, they almost just need to work on how do you keep your head when suddenly the pressure's on you? You know, what is the kind of like absolute basics that we can do which will ensure that we're just not going to concede multiple goals in a short period of time? Yeah,
obviously Leicester got a couple of players that can damage us. You've already mentioned Vardy, Mahrez. Schmeichel's an excellent keeper on his day. Actually, according to some of the reports, he was the worst performing Leicester player on the pitch against Burnley. But we've set up very defensively in the last two games, mostly a 5-4-1. Bednarek obviously deputised, scored a terrific goal in his Premier League debut at the weekend. What do you make of his chances again this Thursday?
Well, I fully expect Bednarek to be in the side. I think Hughes is going to have to stick with that formation. It looks much better and much more functional than the 4-4-2 that we tried against West Ham, which was just an absolute embarrassment. It was a shambles. Yeah, I think the back three is going to work. I think that's the right approach to take away from home in such an important game. And I think Hughes has also shown that, you know, that 5-4-1 formation can be more attacking. You know, under Hughes, we have got the ball forward a lot better. Bertrand and Suarez have been pushing forward much better. We go again, get the same level of performance we did against Arsenal and Chelsea, and I think, you know, we've got to have that little bit of luck. And let's hope that we can get 3 points, bit of confidence, head to Wembley on Sunday, singing, you know, Marky Hughes going to keep us up and win the FA Cup.
We live in hope. But I'm going to put you on the spot though, mate. Talk me through your team. Which players have got what it takes to take something from Leicester? I mean, last week's team was McCarthy, Cedric, Bertrand, Yoshida, Bednarek, Hoot, Romeu, Højbjerg, Ward-Prowse, Tadic and Long. Which is your team for this week?
You know what? I'm going to stick with a gaffer. I don't think you can watch that first hour against Chelsea and say that he hasn't got it absolutely spot on. You know, there's a temptation that you might want to bring Lamina in there, but again, he was appalling against West Ham, and I think that would be a risk. I think it's going to be a risk to upset the way he's got the team playing. I expect that would also be the same team that he's going to use on Sunday in the Cup semi-final, because we can see that it's effective against Chelsea as well. All we have to do is just make sure that we're thinking a bit more when we come under pressure. You know, we're anticipating what the opponent's going to do. It's not been about commitment. You know, I can see the commitment from all the players on the pitch. I think they all deserve another go again on Thursday.
Hopefully that is a reason to be positive with that lineup. What's the score going to be there, mate?
It's going to be 2-1. I can't see us ever keeping a clean sheet, but, you know, there we go. I think we can score 2 goals again, and hopefully we can avoid conceding 3.
I certainly hope so, and that would be probably one of the worst records ever in Premier League history, to concede 3 goals for 5 games in a row.
We can't do it again. We I mean, I know it's possible, but we just can't. We absolutely have to take control of this. We have to find leaders on the pitch. Now is the time to step up. You know, let's create a new Southampton hero these next 5 days.
Yeah, and one final note as well, actually. I've just seen the result come in. It is West Ham 1, Stoke 1. So it's done us ever so slightly a small favour in the fact that Stoke haven't leapfrogged us at the bottom of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the fewer points that are shed around the bottom 5 or 6 teams, the better, really.
And it was a West Ham 90th minute Carroll goal that actually equalised for them. So thank you very much, West Ham. But that's a little pressure off our backs, though. But excellent stuff, though, mate. Thank you very much for joining me. But remember to go ahead and check out the latest episode of the Saints FC podcast. The link will be somewhere above my head. Click on the eye in the card above me to go there. Click in there to listen to the episode, and hopefully the video will be with you tomorrow at some point. John, big thanks, mate.
Yeah, no worries, Freddie. Cheers.
Excellent stuff. And go ahead and leave your predictions for our trip to the King Power. Let me know what you think in below.